Yeah. Hi, welcome. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that we are all set. And do you want to tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Val Jones. I'm a coach and I work with midlife women who are ready for a reinvention. So that looks like a lot of women whose, like their kids are getting older, maybe they're going through a divorce or a separation or breakup, and they're ready to just kind of deal with their shit that's been holding them back and start to create a life that aligns with who they really are and what they want and deserve. So yeah, I have an online business with that. And I do retreats and group programs, and I have a podcast called The Selfish Woman. And yeah, that's what I do.
All the things. She's huge on TikTok.
I
She
love
blew
my
up on TikTok in the mastermind.
yeah.
We'll talk about that in a minute. Um, So yeah, I mean, that kind of leads us into like, where were you before you joined? Because you've been in the mastermind for 2 rounds now. And so where were you but when you joined the mastermind? Like, where was your mindset? What did your what like pleasure and play and rest look like and all of the stuff?
Yeah. What do you call it? PPR.
PR.
Yeah, so I've been a coach for 8 years, and I've done so many different niches and done lots of different things in my business. But when I came to you, I had just come from living in Spain for 2 years. And then I really changed my life. I had my own midlife reinvention and really changed a lot about my life and was ready to take my business more seriously than I had before. And I'd started my podcast, and I was really seeing this new community sort of unfolding with the women that I work with. And I knew at that point I had big goals for that year. And I knew I needed an extra level of support and just that accountability. And also, I'd never done a mastermind before, but I've been like following you. We've been connected for years.
Yeah.
So I knew like I wanted to work with you in some capacity. So then when your mastermind came around, I was like, yeah, it felt like the right time for me to get that extra level of support.
Yeah. Awesome. And in terms of, because your business just like exploded within the last year. And so in terms of like mindset before all of that happened and, the work that we've done together in the mastermind, where would you say you were before you joined? And then as you were learning new skills and more of the like energetics and how to hold a bigger business?
Yeah, I mean, I had done so much mindset work already on myself, but coming in, I realized that where I was, I had like the desire for more, but I didn't have the belief that it was going to happen. Like, I really wasn't in that place of like, oh, it's inevitable. Of course it's going to happen. And I think because I'd been sort of in that lower level for so long of like lower income level, and I'd gotten comfortable with just like what I'd been charging. Like, I'd been charging from one-on-ones the same thing for like a few years, and I was really in a comfort zone of like, this feels safe to me where I'm at, even though it wasn't what I wanted more. I was really stuck in that place of like, I don't want to push myself, and I'm not pushing my edges. I'm not raising my prices. And so I knew I had those blocks around charging more, or earning more in abundance. And then really when I started working with you was when I started elevating my mindset and shifting into being able to like hold more money, hold the belief that it was inevitable. Like, all of that started changing, and then really the business started changing along with that, kind of in parallel.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting. I mean, it just sounds like the work that you do with your clients, right? Where like you were stuck in like, this is comfortable. It's just it like business and relate. There's just so many parallels between business and relationships, right? Of like, it's comfortable and like I might want more, but the unknown and like what's it going to take, and the fear that comes up and the worries and all of that. So it's been
Totally.
really fun to work with you around that.
Yeah.
Um, So what kinds of, you had mentioned it a little bit, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about what are some of the programs that you had, both, as you started the mastermind and then as they expanded, because one of the things that we do in the expansion pod, which is, for the coaches and service providers who are making between, or want to be making, right, like between 5 and 10K a month, is really like slowly scaling and adding things in and not just like blasting things all at one time. So you're not just like blowing out your nervous system. And so that's one of the things that we worked on, was like layering things in. So what programs did you have before you started, if you can remember? And then as the year has gone on, what did we add in?
I think before I started working with you, I mean, I think I'd only had one-on-one going. I don't think I had any other programs. And so then when we started working together was when I knew I wanted to do a group program. I'd never done a group online program before, and I knew I wanted to do a retreat. So those were the two things that I had in mind for the time, the 6 months with the mastermind. And so when I came in, that was really a big shift of going from just having my little group of one-on-ones to then being like, okay, I'm going to do a retreat and I'm going to do a group program, and so that was a huge shift for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you added on the group program, and you've launched that just once or twice now?
Once. So we started in the spring of 2022. Mm-hmm. And I did the retreat that September, and then I did the group program that October.
Yeah. And you sold both of those out?
I did.
And your one-on-one?
I did, yeah.
And then there was a point you're like, I don't have anything to sell right now. Like, what am I supposed to be working on? Which is like, welcome to your next level.
Which is also a whole other mindset piece of like, remember, I was feeling like so uncomfortable about not selling after having such a busy sales period of launching. And then I was like, what am I doing? I'm not selling anything. What's wrong? And you were like, it's fine.
This is like let's settle it in. Yeah. And I'm happy you brought that up too, because there is such a difference. And just the work that we've been doing, because it's a smaller pod for the expansion pod. And so we've had a lot of intimate conversations. And so some of the things that we've talked about is the difference between when you're going to up to 5K months, and then the different mindset that you have to take on and work on, which is a mind fuck in and of itself, right? Because like, it's not, at that point, it's not strategy anymore.
It isn't. Like, I had my strategy nailed. I mean, I'd been working on strategy for so long. So I was like posting every day, right? I had my TikTok strategy, I had my social media strategy. Like, I was comfortable with a lot of that. And so I pretty much knew how to launch and all of that. And that did surprise me that it became kind of like almost 90%. We're talking mindset, embodiment, energetics, and that was really the high level conversations that needed to happen in order to continue to progress and not just sabotage.
Yeah. Yeah. Which it's surprising, like, until you get up to that level, and then you're like, oh, like, I'm not, and same thing with me. Like, I'm no longer hiring my coaches for strategy stuff. It's all just mindset and learning how to hold it and learning how to hold the uncomfortableness of, and people don't think about selling everything out and how uncomfortable that's going to be, which is like, I just thought it was going to be amazing and everything was going to be great. And then it's like, it's dysregulating in a way.
It is. And it took me so long and we've talked about this before about how the 10K months are sort of like the hardest to get to. It took me so long to get to 10K months, like a couple of years really of working towards that in the mindset and manifesting piece energetically. And then you think, cool, made it to 10K months. It's going to be so easy now. And then it's like, oh, never mind. And it's
Joke's on you.
like new level, new devil, right? Like it's
Yeah.
just a new level of mindset work from that point of like, oh yeah, like this isn't about strategy. Like I really wasn't coming to you with like, help me tweak my sales page or help
Right.
me like tweak my content, or it was more like, I guess, strategy, like what courses and programs are we going to do in the year?
Mm.
And then also like that money management piece, you really helped me with that. 'Cause that was new. And then the mindset around like, okay, how do you hold consistent higher level income and feel good about it and not be in this place of fear that it's going to go away or it's not going to last or it was just a fluke. I think I was in that place for a while. Like this was just a fluke. It's not going to happen again.
Yeah. And that I will say, like, I'm working on that. The other multiple 6 and 7 figure coaches that I am in Mastermind with, they're working on that. So that's something that just like, unfortunately never goes away. So,
Exactly.
but the thing too, and I think, what I've really seen with you in the Mastermind too, is just, how fast you can turn things around now.
Mm-hmm.
That, you might come onto a call and you're kind of in this funky energy. And then by the end of the call, it's like, things have shifted. You've really been able to come out of that. And so that's also one thing that I've seen you do really well is not spiral out,
Mm-hmm.
as hard.
Oh yeah.
And you don't stay in there as long. And I think that's also just like, it just speaks to the work that you've done on
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. It's still hard, but yeah, you recover quicker and it doesn't take you as long. So like, and I remember some calls I'd get on, I'd be in like that funky energy. By the end, it's like a total shift and I'm like pumped up, ready to go. And then I would get results like that day. Remember, I would be like, oh my God, I just sold a spot or
Totally. I mean, and there was one call in particular where we were really working on your messaging. And this is, something that I've been talking about lately too, which is like when you raise your rates, you have to elevate your message. You have to elevate your mindset to match the rates. And one of the things that we worked on, which was just a tiny tweak. So it just is a great reminder that you don't have to throw the whole fucking strategy away. You don't have to tear things down. You can just make small tweaks and see huge results.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you did was you stopped focusing on the pain and leaving the relationship, right? And you, especially for your one-on-one, this is what we were specifically targeting, right? And you really focused on what they wanted and what they desired and what they wanted to have. And you literally turned around, your TikTok blew up, things just like, it was like snowball effect. And do you want to talk a little bit about what that was like?
Yeah, that was a really important piece that once I got that, it changed a lot. And I was really comfortable talking about the pain points. And that does attract a certain type of person.
Totally.
And yet those people weren't buying
Right.
my higher ticket items, right? Those weren't the people who were coming to the retreat or doing the one-on-one. And so when you talked about like, those are a different type of customer or a client, you need to be speaking to them where they're at, which is they're already ready to move forwards. They're ready to elevate. They want the growth. They're not stuck in the problem anymore. And once I kind of realized that of like, oh, wait, like this is a different conversation because the retreat or the one-on-one is a different type of person. Then when I started speaking to what's possible, yeah, like I really noticed that like I started attracting those type of people. And then, selling out the retreat and my one-on-one was really evidence of just that one, that one subtle mindset shift of realizing like, wait, I'm not speaking to the right kind of people who are ready for that.
Mm-hmm. It was so fun to watch too, because it was just like shit just started flying off the shelves and it was just, it was really powerful. So we had been connected via social media and we had chatted a couple of times because we were both living overseas. And I don't think you had joined any of my other programs before, had you? Just you
No.
had went right into the mastermind,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is amazing. So speaking on that, like what was the deciding factor, like going from just from like social media and knowing me that way to then jumping into this like higher level,
Yeah.
higher investment program?
I base a lot of my decisions on my intuition, because I think what I find is that when we overthink these kinds of things, there's always a reason to say no. And
Mhm.
I've learned that when I trust my intuition, I'm always right. And so with you, I had the know, like, and trust factor with you because I've been connected with you and watching you for so long,
Yeah.
that when I saw the mastermind coming up, I really didn't have to think about it, because I was like, of course, Shannon's the one to help me. It just felt right in my gut, And every time I do that, it works out. So yeah, like I didn't feel the need to have a sales conversation. I didn't feel the need to really ask a lot of questions. I was like, no, you're the girl for me. And that's just how I made the decision.
I love it. And what do you think it was about the mastermind that helped you sell out the programs, get those results, like do all of the things? Like if you were to break this down for somebody who's thinking about joining and wants the same results or similar results.
Well, I knew I needed to invest in having a coach to support me to go to the next level, because I wasn't going to push myself the way I knew I needed to be pushed. And so we know that, right? But I also knew, like, having the weekly connection was important for me, just because, like, I don't know, like if it's every 2 weeks, even, I feel like I'm just going to get in the toilet in my mindset.
Same.
So having the weekly connection was really important. And the structure of the calls I really liked. And then having other people who to just like cheer you on, or you can support them, and watching their growth as well was really helpful for me. So I think I just really liked the way it was laid out. It worked for me. And knowing, like, every Thursday, I'm going to have to tell Shannon what my brags are. It really
Come
made me,
prepared.
yeah, it made me think about it. Like, oh yeah, what were my wins this week? Or what do I need? And yeah, it's just like magic happens when you're in those kind of containers.
Yeah, totally agree. So
Mhm.
what would you say like your pleasure and like anti-hustle lifestyle looks like now in your business and your life versus when you started?
I keep reminding myself that, because I think there's always this sort of hustle conditioning in my mind. That's always, like, yesterday I had a 3-hour window with no clients, and I laid in bed and watched Netflix for 3 hours.
Yay, well
But I
brag.
have that mindset that's still like, you're being lazy, you should be
Mhm.
working. How can you expect to make money if you're not working your ass off all the fucking time? And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm resting. I'm giving myself rest. So like now it's like, and I remember one thing that really stuck out with me, and we've talked about this, is when you said, like, it doesn't mean it's easy, but you can have ease. And that's where I feel like I am now. It's like, it's still hard work. It's still
Totally.
challenging. It's always going to be, but I have ease with it now. And I can take half a day off, or I can, work a 2-hour day. But I know that, like, when I am working, I'm doing the things that are going to propel me forwards.
Right.
So I have team to support me. So I don't have to do any tech stuff, which is incredible. And they've updated all my systems and all my processes. Like, that's all in order. So I don't have to think about that at all, which is incredible. And then I'm just focusing on, like, the mindset and energetics, and I'm journaling and I'm meditating and I'm in my body, or I'm getting inspired. And if I'm not inspired, then what I'm putting out isn't really connecting. So like for me now, that's the most important piece. And, you said that too, is like your job becomes like being in the mindset and energy of creation and connection, instead of when you're struggling or you're first starting out or you're in a lower level, it really is about the strategies and learning how to be visible online and getting used to that, which is a lot of work. But now it's like I make a TikTok and I write a post, do a video, and then I'm like creating products and creating
Totally.
programs and feeling excited.
That's so good. Oh, it just makes me so happy.
It's so great. And, and I also do corporate coaching, right? And I was talking with a client yesterday, and it was so fascinating because she's like a director in a corporate company and she works her ass off, like 18-hour days, 15-hour days, and yeah, she's making 6 figures, but she's burnt out. She's got 2 little kids, like no time for her family. And she's asking me like, but what do you do? Like, how's your lifestyle? Because I'm telling her like, oh, I'm going to Italy for 3 weeks this summer, and
Eating yourself bonbons in bed while you're talking to her. Well,
going to Scotland for a couple weeks. And she's like,
totally.
how can you do that? And I'm like, because I work for myself.
Uh-huh.
I'm the boss.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm happy that you brought this up too, because this is the difference between the essential pod and the expansion pod, right? Like the essential pod really is about learning the strategy, getting the strategy down, really learning how to sell your one-on-one and how to and like building up your confidence. And then as you move into that next level, then that next level, that's where you start to bring on team. And then that's like a whole coaching request of like, how do I hire people? How do I fire people? What do I need to hire people for? Like, how much money is going out? There's just like, these different levels of conversations. And then that's where business really starts to pick up, right? Like when you're no longer bogged down by the tech shit that you hate doing. Usually people aren't very good at it. That's just not, they're good at coaching, right? They're not good at the techie shit. And your job is really to be the visionary, to be supporting your clients, to really be getting in their head, and you can't outsource that.
That's right.
And then as you add on these other programs, you add on different payment plans, and that's really when shit starts to change.
Totally. Like having the group program and having the 6-month payment plan. And, like I learned a lot from you about that. Like, you kept saying like, sell it your one-on-one first. I'm like, why do you keep harping on that? What's the big deal? And then I think I told you, I was like, oh, now I get it, because it gives consistency and stability financially. That money is coming in, and then you have the ability to go and create those other programs, but you don't need the money. So that was a big change for me too. And then learning like, why would you want to do payment plans? Well, because I get to see payments coming in every month, and that's really great for my mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also want to say, like, I appreciate that there are 2 different pods, because if I was still in with the other pod, which I've come on some of those calls, I could see how it wouldn't serve me as well, because what they're working through, I've already worked through.
Totally.
And so they have a space to do that. And, but it wouldn't be meeting me with what I need, and vice versa, right? The talks we're having isn't really meeting them where they are. So
they'd be like, what the fuck?
yeah, right. Because I remember what it's like when you're still working through being visible online and trying to articulate your message, and like that's so much work. But for me, like it's not that anymore. So that's a really smart idea, because it's just a different type of conversation you need to be having.
And I'm happy you brought that up too, because the some of the people in the essential, because you get access to all of the calls, right? So like if you wanted to go in and watch what we were doing on the Wednesday call, but I do know that some of the people in the essential pod watched the expansion pod calls and they were like, oh shit. Like these are really, I mean, you and I had some very powerful conversations, and you can see the mindset shifts happening. You can see the light bulb go off, right? And the shift in your energy. And, the feedback that I got from some of them was like, just watching those calls, watching me coach you and seeing what that next level looks like was so valuable to them. And so I loved that feedback and
Mhm.
being able to provide the two different pods, because you're right. They're very different businesses, mindset, two different, business owners, and both fun, but just very different
Yeah,
conversations.
totally. I mean, I think one of the big ones we dug into recently was financial trauma.
Yeah.
Remember? And like, I had that huge awareness of like, oh my God, I have financial trauma that I didn't really even connect to. And then I was able to do that work of releasing that and like, oh, of course I'm struggling with these higher levels because I had this mindset like I don't deserve it or it's never going to last and all of this from my past. And so like things like that, it's like when you're just starting to build your business, you don't really have the capacity to be in those places and maybe it's not necessary yet, and like it always comes at the right time.
Yeah. And what I saw with you too is like, this is why it's just so important to always be doing our own internal work, because that's a perfect example of how a past relationship and past beliefs, right? You brought those into your business. And so that's going to affect you raising your rates, how you're showing up, how you're talking about your program, like what you think is possible. And unless you're looking at those things, you're going to just keep sabotaging and our brains do really fucking sneaky things, as you've seen, right? To sabotage us, to like not respond to messages, to accidentally miss calls for sales calls,
Yeah.
or right, like we do these weird things unless we're always looking at, and the willingness to look at, oh, I wonder where this is coming from, and looking at all of that. And so that was a very powerful call.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's shifted a lot of my habits around money. And just like you talked so much about like your own journey through like financial responsibility and how and like even just looking at your numbers. Like I wasn't doing that. I was in avoidance. And it's like, so like, things like that have changed for me too. It's like I'm learning to be regulated around like looking at my bank account or looking at the numbers, like how much am I actually making each month? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Great. That money piece is huge for
it
sure.
really is. And so many, especially women, I mean, we have so much fucked up conditioning around money. So that's just a huge part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, is there anything else that you want to add about the mastermind or about your experience for somebody who might be thinking about joining?
I mean, like I said, I would just say if it feels right, do it and don't let the money piece fuck you up because yeah, like it's an investment. But like I wouldn't have had my first 6-figure year if I hadn't invested in the mastermind. And so like you got to just do it and trust your gut that like this is what you need and push yourself out of the comfort zone of just staying where you are. So that's what I always say is like, if it feels right, do it. Don't overthink it. Just fucking do it. And you're going to get what you need to get out of it. If you put in the work and show up and actually
That
do what Shannon tells
that
you to
part.
do.
That part.
That part, like it's up to me to do it. And it's like, I can show up on the call, but if I don't do what I know I need to do, then it's like, oh, it didn't work for me. It's like bullshit. No, it's like, am I actually doing the work? Am I showing up every call? Am I participating? Am I being vulnerable? Am I being open? Am I asking for what I need? And that in itself is a great reason to do a mastermind because that will challenge you to actually like speak up and like learn how to articulate what you need and asking for what you want and all of that shit. Like it's all intertwined.
Yeah. And I mean, that just like bleeds out into all of your other relationships, right? Like if you're not asking your coach what you need, then chances are you're probably not asking your partner for what you
Right?
need, right? And so like this is a great place to practice those skills so that
Exactly.
then you can have hard conversation. If you can have a hard conversation with me, then you can take that courage and confidence and have a hard conversation with a partner, a parent, right?
And or if you're struggling with visibility online, like be visible in the mastermind. And
Yes.
like for me, it was always like if I show up on a call, whether it's just you and me or if it's a group, it's like I'm learning to like be the one to ask a question or to be the one to raise my hand, be the one to ask for help. Whereas I never used to do that. I was always like, oh no, I'll just hide in the background. It's like, fuck that.
Right.
I need to learn how to show up. So yeah, it's a safe space to practice visibility and all of that you'll take it into your relationships, you'll take it into your business, then you're going to be so much more comfortable showing up, right?
Yeah.
For your clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
All right. Well, thank you for meeting with me and for sharing your experience. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. No, it's been amazing. You're fabulous.
Okay. See you soon.
Bye.